Uh,
Doc?
Thank you, Chair. I align myself with what Honorable Kanyile said. One of the problems that we have is lack of consequences. So for me, I would ask that we seek legal advice and we not accept an apology to ourselves. There are different spheres of government. We should be part of the complainant as the aggrieved party, not the one that hears how we've been aggrieved. We should be on the side of the victim, that is all women in this country. So I would like us to get an opinion about us going to lay a charge of criminal injuria. If a charge has already been laid, we become an amicus to the case so that there should be accountability. I don't want us to sit in a situation where somebody comes, there's a lot of pressure, they apologize, and you are not getting the law to adjudicate on this matter as to whether men have rights to possess women's bodies, to be derogatory about women. We need to take it to the sphere of government that needs to deal with it. So my humble suggestion, Chair, would be to concur with Honorable Kanyile that we get a legal opinion about being a complainant, laying a charge of criminal injuria against this gentleman. And I use the term gentleman advisedly. So for me, Chair, let us be a complainant. And it should not be dependent on what their legal people have done. If we are the ones, we are the committee that protects women's rights. We're a committee that is dealing with this gender-based violence that is perpetrated by misogyny from men. Let us be the complainant. That would be my take. I wouldn't take the easy route of summoning somebody who's spending money and we got no powers to censure that person. Because I feel this is a crime against all women. And it should be tried in a court of law. Just like has been done with people that have had derogatory terms about other ethnic groups and they've been taken to court for that type of language. We should, as a committee, consider being a complainant and lay a charge of criminal injuria amongst other charges. We'll listen to advice. Defamation would be issues of the person saying, I've been defamed. But we can, on behalf of all women, ensure that men understand that they do not have control over women's bodies. And it's about time that this matter went to court and we use the resources that back us up to be the complainant. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, can I hand over to Honorable Lonzi?
No, thank you. Thank you very much, Chairperson. I think I must start by introducing myself to the Minister. Minister, my name is Sihle Lonzi, Member of Parliament, deployed by the Economic Freedom Fighters. And I'm introducing myself, Chair, because I don't know this minister. I'm seeing this minister for the first time. When a 13-year-old girl gave birth in Sishego Hospital in Limpopo, teenage pregnancy, I never saw the face of this minister. When cases of Cwecwe came, Boy in Matatiela, Alu, I never saw the face of this minister. When last year, between I think October, December or so, there were more than 120,000 reported cases of teenage pregnancy in KZN, in Gauteng, Limpopo number 3, and I think Eastern Cape number 4. I never saw the face of this minister. When the rape victims of Omotoso didn't receive justice, and the judge literally said it was as a result of the incompetence of the NPA in her judgment, effectively saying these people were supposed to receive justice, but because of the inefficiencies of the prosecutors, the NPA, a rapist is now free to roam the streets of South Africa. I never saw the face of this minister. So I don't know them. And I think really that then calls to question what makes this, if it is not grandstanding, if it is not populism, if it is not selective activism, why must Parliament be dragged to this particular case, which members have correctly said that perhaps if you are looking at cyberbullying, it can form within the ambits of the Portfolio Committee on Communications, Digital Communications, and the likes. When about half of the young people in South Africa are unemployed, remember this is a Portfolio Committee of women, youth, and persons with disabilities, was sitting with almost half of the population of young people are unemployed. We don't know these people. So that's why we get to be surprised when all of a sudden they emerge out of the woods and then they want to push particular agendas in Parliament, even when the agendas are genuine, because I must concur with the members, really the footage is distasteful. So the agenda is genuine, but because the delivery of the message is of questionable character and ethics, now we're made to ask questions to say, why is this being brought to this Parliament? And perhaps, Chair, we must just give a very quick education, because I heard some members of Parliament saying this committee has a responsibility to implement laws. Chair, I think both you and I and other members would have at least have a basic understanding of how government works in South Africa. We'll appreciate that the three arms of state and government have three very different mandates. You've got the legislature, which is us, who writes the laws. You've got the judiciary, which interprets the laws. And then you've got the executive branch, which must then go and execute and implement the laws. So when the member says this Parliament is not implementing laws, I get to be very confused whether members of Parliament and even the minister themselves understand really the real mandate of portfolio committees and Parliament, which is to oversee and act as a check and balance to the executive branch. Now, Chair, we've got the Commission of Gender Equality. We've got the National Strategic Plan on GBVF that Cyril Ramaphosa likes to talk about in his very unpassionate sonas. Now, the question we must then be able to ask the minister and the department rather is this a vote of no confidence on those particular entities? Because that's when we then come in as a check on the executive to say, all these entities which fall under the department, which are supposed to deal with these issues, the Commission of Gender Equality, the strategic plans which are there, and many other entities that are supposed to deal with these very critical and important issues, have they failed to deliver on their mandates? And if the minister must then come to us and say, look, we've failed to deal with GBV in society. And we're asking Parliament in its oversight duty to perform oversight over government departments and entities, to then come in and say, all of these nice words that we like talking about in SONA, all of these commissions that we like establishing, all of these useless structures that we spend millions and millions of South African taxpayers' monies on, are not doing their work when it comes to implementing the national strategic goals and plans on GBV in South Africa. And when there is that vote of no confidence in those particular entities, then us as Parliament, within our mandate, we then come in and say, it is now time to intervene. Because Cyril Ramaphosa has failed to fight GBV in South Africa, because the Minister of Women, Youth and Persons with Disabilities has failed, because the Deputy Minister has failed, then Parliament must be able to come in. So when the minister runs to this committee, it's declaring of a vote of no confidence on themselves as the department, because the department must play that role. The department must play that role, and we must then do oversight over the department to say, in as far as the mandate of the department is concerned, have you been able to deal with these issues in society? And then if they are saying to us, no, we've not been able to deal with it, then as Parliament, we can be able to come in. Because I'm happy because I listened to one of the interviews of this particular minister or deputy minister, and then they corrected the remarks which we saw in the media that they are summoning this individual to Parliament. Because my first thing was that they've got no powers to summon anyone to Parliament. That's a decision that we must take as members of Parliament and this particular portfolio committee. They've got these ministers report to us, who are the ones who are in charge of Parliament, who are running Parliament. They don't get to tell us what we must do in Parliament. But I'm happy because I think sanity prevailed, and after some time they were able to say, no, we're going to ask permission from this particular Parliament to look into this thing. But I am extremely suspicious of this selectivity that we're seeing. And I think this has been echoed by other members of Parliament to say that We don't know these people. We never see them when these cases of GBV come out. We never see them when very sensitive and important issues come in South Africa that deals with the violence that we see against women and children in our society. But we get to see them on certain cases. Why is that the case? So the minister, I mean, they may or may not respond to that particular aspect, but it was important for me to raise this to this parliament to say that we must not be allowed to be derailed from our program. We've got a very clear program as this parliament chair. We know what our mandate is. We know what it is that we want to achieve. We've already resolved, by the way, even before the department had resolved, to say that we're going to go to Matatiela and look into that particular aspect in Xwexwe. And we did it as members of parliament because we could see that there's a silence. We could see that there's nothing that is coming from the department. There's nothing that is coming from the South African Police Services. So we have to do some joint venture together with other portfolio committees and go and look into these issues. So I take exception, not to the case itself, because it's a very important case and we condemn what happened there. But I take exception because the characters which are presenting these cases in parliament are not only, don't understand parliament processes, or if they understand them, they just undermine them. But they are also very selective in the types of cases that they want to bring before this parliament. And then perhaps, Chair, in closing, I would be interested to know from this minister, because we've been engaging with this case, even in our media platforms and even in many other engagements that we've been having. And then people reach out to us that, that person may be related to someone who was working in that podcast and got to be released from that podcast. I forgot the name, Manaka. So I wonder if you've got any commentary to make to that effect, to say, do you have any prior relations with people who either worked in that podcast? And if that is the case, would that then not be the reason why you want to elevate certain issues of GBV above the other more important issues, or rather not more important, equally important cases of GBV which are there? Do we not wish that Xwexwe's mother had a friend in ANC politicians or had friends in higher places? Do we not wish that the 13-year-old teenage pregnant girl from Sishiro had friends in higher places who could elevate their cases to parliament? Do we not wish that the victims of rape of Omotoso had friends in ANC politicians and friends in higher places who could take and elevate their cases to such institutions? Do we not wish the many women and children in South Africa who are ignored, who are neglected, who are overlooked, had friends in higher places or relatives in higher places who would be able to elevate their issues to be discussed at this level? It doesn't happen. We don't see it happening. So I take exception. I think these are very questionable characters which are bringing these cases before parliament. If this portfolio committee chair, which I would support, by the way, wants to look into this matter, I think we must do it independently as a portfolio committee without any outside influence from people who are coming from this ministry or this department, because they've not shown us any intention of resolving the genuine issues which are affecting women and children in South Africa. But they want to nitpick and choose certain cases because perhaps it becomes personal to them because they are related or they've got friendships with one or two of these South African celebrities. So I submit my submissions and comments. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Honourable Lonzi. Honourable Lonzi, you've asked for responses from the Honourable Deputy Minister, and the Honourable Deputy Minister is still with us. So over to you, DM. Thereafter.
Chair, perhaps through you, I would just like an opportunity before the Minister
Chair,
responds.
I hope I'm audible. I must express my appreciation to you,
Chair, if I may,
and
before the
members
Minister
of
comes,
committee.
the Deputy Minister comes.
I think from
no, Honourable
the
Whip,
submissions
I don't want
that were made by members of
Just hang on, DM. No, Honourable Whip, I don't want a situation where honourable members will be responding to one another. I think it's now an opportunity for the Honourable DM to respond to the issues that have been raised with her, and then we will close this discussion. I'll give a way forward. Honorable DM, over to
Chair,
you.
before you proceed, I thought perhaps I wanted to say that perhaps some of the statements that were made were misleading, and I think it's our responsibility to clarify statements that are misleading, rather than to move and just have them overshadow
Honorable
the
Whip.
work of the organization.
Yes, but Honorable Whip, the DM, the questions and comments were directed to the Deputy Minister. So I wish for the Deputy Minister to respond. I do not wish for a situation where honorable members respond to one another at this stage. I want the Honorable DM to be able to
Thank you,
respond.
Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Whip. Honorable DM, it's over to you.
Over to you. Over to you.
I also see the hand of Dr. Lihlape, or is that a legacy hand? Over to you, DM.
Okay, can the DM proceed? I will speak in our session, Chair.
Thank you. Over to you, Honorable Deputy Minister.
Thank you, Chairperson. I must appreciate the inputs by honorable members. Well thought. I don't take this lightly in terms of the opinion and the views that members have weighed in. I want to appreciate the sense of acknowledgement that members of the committee has in the gender-based violence that we are dealing with. And I think my submission to committee was to say that there is indeed the responsibility that we own within the three arms of state, the responsibility we have as the state, and of which I've outlined the work that we have been doing, and also highlighting the whole of society where Parliament can also play an active role, not just by visiting and doing an oversight, which is part of it, but by actions that allows Parliament to exercise their own privileges. And I think that's the submission we have brought this. It's a mechanism that exists. Parliament must exercise its own mechanism. And I want to really appreciate that those who actually have explored to say, let's tap into legal opinions. Let's even expand whether is Parliament committee, portfolio committee even able to open a case? Because if we are to demonstrate seriousness of gender-based violence work from a Parliament point of view, you are ought to then exercise your rights, and it's within your own rights to explore those. Madam Chair, there were direct questions, even from, I think, Madam Species, Honorable Species there, which I think I actually had one or two, which I was worried a little bit about words that were used, like, selective matters and so forth, which I sometimes find very challenging. And she made even reference to speak about the portfolio committee boundaries. And I was not sure which boundaries was she referring to. If she's referring to sections that I've quoted that the portfolio committee was or is able to explore, or if she was making reference to something that I don't know. I think I wish I would have understood, or she would have been explicit so that we understand. I don't want to take what Honorable, let me get his name thoroughly, Honorable Sihlelonzi, who introduced himself. I don't think in the case of the work that we do, we will come here in the 7th administration to undermine one another. Whether he knows me or he doesn't know me, but it doesn't give Honorable Lozi any right whatsoever to actually undermine me in my role. If he really wanted to know, and he's been responding to things publicly himself, he should have actually even done a homework. The first homework that Honorable Lozi should have done. Honorable Lozi was supposed to read the statement that was first released last week. Nowhere in the statement that the
my
department,
surname is Lonzi. There's an N there,
Honorable
Minister.
Lonzi, the
Since we're talking
statement,
about reading, please, there's an N there.
the statement that was released that he needed as a deployee of EFF to Parliament, he needed to read, and we can't help him, or we can help him if he needs to read the statement that we refer matters. We've never claimed as a department that we are going to summon anyone. We refer these matters also to Parliament to exercise its right. The same way Chapter 9 institutions must exercise their right and duties is the same way even other institutions such as South African Police Service will exercise their own obligation. Our duty as a department, not only just as an advocacy and as a mainstreaming department, our duty is also to monitor whether all stakeholders and institutions are actually doing their work to respond to gender-based violence. Why would the member think that we will not make recommendation to explore? It is for this committee to explore what we submit to it and make decisions to it. The other point is that Honorable Member, Honorable Lonzi, is misleading this committee to suggest that we have made a submission otherwise that is far-reaching. It is misleading to even assume that our work we are not doing properly. It is also misleading to assume that we are only selecting this case of known people, Ms. Dlamini and Mr. Mkwebo. In fact, I did articulate even in my submission to yourself that this is a case that has received popularity because of the stance and the position and the influence that the individuals hold in society. When we speak about cases in Tonga, in Lusikisiki, in Matatiela, in Buputatswana, all of these areas that we are actually going into, when we speak about cases, even in Soweto or in Atteridgeville, nobody received this very same level of attention. He himself, as honorable member, doesn't. Now, let me tell you, you cannot say, where was I? In fact, I'll take a few steps back. Where were you when we were standing outside the many cases of gender-based violence, seeking accountability and making sure that SAPS follow up? Where were you when UDC Melani in Guatemala were murdered? Where were you? So you cannot come and claim, where were we when we are with the people, when we are with the children, with the women? When you speak about the 90,000 teenage pregnancies, I was there and we are attending to all those issues. So please do not, honorable member, mislead the committee that we are not doing the job. We are. The society, the violence is happening in our homes, in our churches, in our streets. And that's where we are saying there's something that builds into this violence. Before a woman and a child and any vulnerable person gets raped, let's stop it by virtue of verbal abuse, online bullying, cyber attacks. Before a woman gets murdered, let's stop it where it starts. And this is a clarion call that I'm making to all members. There's no political stance here. There's no selection. This is about lives of many South Africans. And if we act, we must act impartially. And we must never politicize this. And we must not come here and claim grandstanding. There's no grandstanding. And there was never an attempt to take away the powers that you have. We were saying the powers that you have, we are asking that you utilize. So that even when you take trips, as you suggest, to go to Matatiela, you actually exercise and say, we've done this and we achieved it. You're not just to visit, but actually you've exercised the powers that is upon you. Honorable Chair, what the committee concludes for me, as the Deputy Minister, what would have been important is that this committee taken time exhausting its remedies to actually help us deal with online violence, with gender-based violence entirely, eradicate it, so that the women, the girls, the children, the boys, including vulnerable groups such as LGBTI and persons with disability, can live freely. You do your job as parliamentarians, not only just limited to oversight and accountability, but you can utilize the privileges. And that's what we are calling for. And thank you so much for indulging this process, Honorable Chair. I appreciate you.
Chair, is the DM related to Monaka or not?
That was a question you asked. I don't know who's Monaka. I'm not related to anyone. And if I am, I possibly don't know. And I'm also not friends with McG nor Miss Dlamini. These issues of South Africans, we speak for all, whether they are known or not. We stand for all South Africans.
Thank you so much.